echoes too loudly. Hey, night listener. Tonight, we enter the shadows. The courthouse steps glisten with rain. Dim streetlights cast long, distorted silhouettes across the marble, as if the building itself is reluctant to hold its form. Inside, the gallery still hums with the silence of judgment. You hear it in your bones, the sentence handed down, the gavel strike that didn't just end a trial, but shifted something deeper. You were there, front row, watching, listening, judging. The man found guilty. Thomas Reiner sat expressionless when they read the verdict. Murder in the first, life without parole. But his eyes weren't blank. They were locked on something, or someone. Row 3, seat 9. She was hard to miss, even in stillness. A pale blue dress, too formal for jury duty, hair pinned perfectly. A half smile resting on her lips, like she knew something the rest of the courtroom didn't. You thought it was grief or pity, but then she smiled when they said the word guilty, not sympathy, satisfaction. It was so subtle, so surgically restrained, that no one else reacted, but you saw it. You didn't imagine it, did you? You step outside the courtroom, the sound of wet shoes and echoing footsteps your only company. Rain patters against your coat as you light a cigarette, not because you need it, but because the act steadies your hands. You pull out the juror list from your coat pocket. Printed, official, seat 9, Edward L. Harrington. You frown. Edward was a 70-year-old retiree from the East Side. You didn't see any Edward in that seat. You saw her. You knew, but pretended you didn't, because this case was clean, airtight, evidence-lined and press-approved. But now, something itches in your gut, the kind of itch you can't scratch without bleeding. Back at your office, the shadows follow you in. You pour yourself a drink, but the glass doesn't steady your nerves like it used to. You open your notebook. One word. Why? The next morning, there's an envelope taped to your door. Inside a single photograph. Grainy, low-res, from the courtroom. You recognize the moment. Just after the verdict, Reiner's eyes locked forward. But this photo is focused on the jury. Row 3, seat 9. Her, clear as day. But in this image, she's looking directly at you. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. A smile that didn't belong there. The smile haunts you, not because it was inappropriate. God knows jurors react in strange ways, but because it didn't belong. It didn't fit. That's what keeps repeating in your mind, over and over, like a clock ticking behind wallpaper, louder each time you try to ignore it. That photograph from the envelope is still sitting on your desk. You've checked the timestamp on the back. You've cross-referenced the gallery angle. There's no mistaking it. This image was taken after the court security cleared all cameras. It couldn't have come from a reporter. Someone wanted you to see her, and they wanted you to start asking questions. You zoom in on her face, pixelated but focused enough to show the smirk. It's not joy, not relief. It's the kind of smile people wear when they've just pulled off something brilliant and no one else knows it yet. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You walked back through the verdict in your head. Thomas Reiner, accused of murdering his wife in cold blood. Overwhelming evidence. His prints on the handle of the fireplace poker. Her blood on his shoes. Surveillance footage of his car circling the block. The text messages. The motive. The jury deliberated for just 6 hours before they returned unanimous guilt. But if the case was so clean, why does it feel dirty now? You pull up courtroom footage on your computer. You find the moment, the shot where the camera pans over the jury as the judge reads the sentence. Row 3, Seat 9. She's there. But as the camera cuts away and then returns, she's gone. In her place, Edward Harrington. Old, bald, sleepy-eyed. You rewind. Play again. There. For a split second. Her hand brushing the rail, and then gone. Like she was never there. Like you dreamed her into existence, only you didn't. You pull out your notebook again. Beneath, why you write a second word. How? The phone rings. You don't answer right away. No caller ID. Just a breath when you pick up. Then a voice, low and measured. You saw her, didn't you? Before you can respond, the line goes dead. Your apartment suddenly feels too silent. You glance around, as if the shadows might start answering the phone instead. You check your door. Locked. But something flutters near your shoe. A slip of paper. You unfold it slowly. 5 words, typed in block letters. She only smiles for guilt. Everyone lies, especially the ones who vanish between frames. The ink-stained glove in your mailbox. The morning air carries a sting, sharp and uninvited. You shuffle down to the mailbox, still unsure why you're playing along. Maybe it's instinct. Maybe it's obsession. Maybe it's because something inside you wants to be pulled back in. You open the box. One item, a latex glove, powdered, blue, wrinkled like it's been worn too long. Stuffed inside it, a folded sheet of paper soaked in ink. You pry it open carefully, the damp fibers peeling like skin under your fingers. The note is brief, just a list. Jury number 9 wasn't on the list. Deliberation room was never sealed. Check the signature on the verdict. The glove slips from your fingers and hits the ground with a wet slap. You stare at it, heart heavy in your throat. You pick it back up. Inside the palm, black smudges. Writing. You squint. Truth doesn't need 12 votes. Your thoughts spiral. You go back to the footage, freeze framing every angle of the jury. She's there in some shots and not in others. But in every frame she appears, her gaze is the same, fixed. Not on the judge, not on the defense, not on the accused, on you. As if this was never about Thomas Reiner. As if you were the trial. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You call the court clerk's office. You request a copy of the verdict form. It arrives 2 hours later by email. You scan the signatures. Line 9, Edward L. Harrington. But the signature is fluid, elegant, not the shaky scrawl of a 70-year-old man. You pull up an old court doc that does contain Edward's actual signature. They don't match. You look again. The elegant signature looks familiar because it's on the back of the photo from the envelope. She signed it. You cross-reference juror records. No photograph ever attached to Harrington's file. No one checked IDs that day. Everyone assumed the paperwork matched the face, but someone swapped the face, and no one noticed. Except you. Everyone lies, especially the ones who leave breadcrumbs in gloves. You place the glove and the note in a Ziploc bag, not because you're preserving evidence, because you're preserving reality. You stare at the glove. Something about it. You turn it inside out. Written along the seam. In the same black ink, you're next. Her name wasn't on the list. You break the rules. Call in a favor from a friend who still owes you one. A court administrator with access to the original juror intake logs. The ones that never leave the clerk's vault. You meet her in a diner that doesn't ask questions, the kind where the coffee burns and the waitstaff looks the other way. She slides you the file beneath the table. Only 5 minutes. She says, "This doesn't exist." You flip through the intake sheets. Photocopies of IDs, juror questionnaires, sign-in logs, Row 3, Seat 9, Edward Harrington. There's his questionnaire handwriting tight, spelled out in blocky letters. Emergency contact none. Favorite TV show. Antiques Roadshow. It fits. Too perfectly. Then you flip to the sign-in sheet. Something's wrong. Day 1. His name is signed in slanted cursive. Day 2. Block letters. Day 3. Cursive again, but not the same hand. By day 4, the signature isn't even close to his original scrawl. You lift the page closer. There's a smudge on day 3, a fingerprint, left hand index. You take a photo and send it to another favor you shouldn't be asking your old contact in forensic intake. Then you ask the administrator one last question. Was there ever a woman? A substitute? She shakes her head. We didn't have any absences on that jury. But what if someone showed up and just sat down? Not possible, she says, too quickly. Why? Because there's a bailiff assigned to check IDs daily. You pause. What's his name? Her lips tighten. Roberts. The name punches your chest. You knew a Roberts once, 15 years ago. Same courthouse. He'd been discharged, fired, for tampering with witness seating during a domestic violence trial. You were there. You testified, but you hadn't heard his name since. You search his record. No trace. Just a note in the personnel archive. Reassigned. Confidential authority override. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Because back then, it had been easier to believe he was a fluke, a bad apple. But now you're wondering if the orchard was always rotten. Your phone buzzes. It's your forensic contact. One fingerprint match. Partial. From a sealed file. Name, Vera Ellison. Not a juror. Not a lawyer. Not even officially alive. Declared dead in 1996. You stare at the screen, and there, as if mocking you, is a note from the fingerprint database. Match confidence, 91%. Status deceased. You sit very still. If she's dead, who smiled at you from row 3? Who signed that verdict? And why does the name Vera Ellison sound like a whisper from a nightmare? You worked so hard to forget. Everyone lies, especially the ones who were supposed to stay buried. A face that wasn't in the gallery. You return to the courtroom, empty now, hollow, like a stage long after the actors have shed their costumes and vanished behind locked dressing room doors. The gallery still smells like dust and tension. You sit in the 3rd row, seat 9, and let your body remember the angle of the wood against your spine, the view of the defendant's table, the subtle creak beneath your feet. You pull out the photograph again, the one from the envelope, and for the first time, you notice something else. Not her. Behind her, in the blurry edge of the image, the public gallery, and sitting just a few feet back, a face, one that shouldn't be there. A woman, long coat, black scarf, sunglasses indoors, half turned away, but familiar, ageless in a way that unsettles. You lean in. The back of her hand is visible beneath the coat sleeve, and on it, a faint scar across the knuckle. You know that scar, because you caused it, 15 years ago. A case no one solved. You were junior counsel. Domestic violence turned disappearance. The husband walked free. The victim's sister attended every hearing. Until one day, she didn't. Vera Ellison. You dig into the court archives, find the photograph from that case file. Black and white, faded, but undeniable. Same posture, same cheekbones, same half smile. The woman from the jury bench was in the gallery 15 years ago. But there's no way. She died in a fire 2 days after the trial. Accidental, they said. The autopsy was inconclusive. You request the original image negatives. They're gone, logged found out by internal investigation. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Because if Vera Ellison is alive, it means she never stopped playing the game. And if she's been watching trials for over a decade silently, invisibly, then this case isn't the first. It's just the most recent one you finally noticed. You flip the jury photograph over again. There's a faint watermark stamped along the bottom, one you didn't catch before. 9/12. You stare. It isn't a date. It's a number. Jury seat 9, trial 12. She's been doing this 12 times, and you were too late to see the first 11. Everyone lies, especially the ones who watch from every row and never leave the courtroom. The sister, who vanished from records. You start pulling threads no one once touched. Vera Ellison's name doesn't exist in the state's digital registry anymore. Not in DMV files, not in social services, not even in the original court records of the domestic violence case from 15 years ago. It's not just that she's missing, it's that someone's been erasing her. You call the courthouse clerk. Case file 071382, you say. Voice level. A pause. Then, no such case number exists. Try Vera Ellison or Margaret Ellison, her sister. Another pause. Nothing. You hang up. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You dig through your own archive's old flash drives, burner laptops, yellowed legal pads in drawers you stopped opening, and there it is, buried in a folder named Closed Cases. The victim's name, Margaret Ellison. The sister listed on the witness stand, Vera Ellison. The last recorded address, 44 Merritt Avenue. You drive out that way. It's the kind of neighborhood that tries to forget itself. Peeling shutters, yards swallowed by ivy, and porches that sigh beneath their own weight. 4412 doesn't exist anymore. Just an empty lot. Caution tape still flutters against the gate like old ribbon from a gift no one wanted to open. A neighbor stands nearby, watching. You ask him what happened. He squints at you through cigarette smoke. Burned down. Long time ago. Anyone hurt? He shrugs. One body. Nothing left but a jawbone. Identified her as the sister. Cops didn't look too close. No next of kin. No autopsy. Quick one. Fire marshal said electrical. But you remember the reports. You remember the file said gasoline. You press him again. He hesitates. You the second guy. You freeze. What second guy? He jerks his head toward the lot. Some fella came by last week. Said he was with the state. Had gloves. Took something from the dirt. What piece of metal? Like a badge. You pull out a photo of Vera Ellison. He looks at it. Doesn't react. Then, slowly. No, that's not her. Your breath catches. This isn't the woman who lived here. It is, he says, taking another drag. But that's not the woman who came back. He hands the photo back and turns away. You stand there, staring at the ash-laced foundation of a life rewritten. Then you notice it, tied to the rusted fence with fishing wire a tag, burnt around the edges, but still legible. The trial never ends. You slip it into your pocket, pulse racing, because someone is watching the watchers, and they've been at it longer than anyone knew. Everyone lies, especially the ones who disappear from both memory and file, and still show up smiling in the jury box. A key wrapped in courtroom ribbon. You return home past midnight. The city seems quieter than usual, like it's holding its breath or waiting for yours to stop. You unlock your apartment, step inside, and immediately freeze. There's something on your kitchen counter. Small, deliberate. A brass key, no larger than your thumb, coiled in a red ribbon. Not just any ribbon, the kind used to bind trial exhibits before they're sent into evidence. You approach slowly, noting the frayed edge of the fabric, the small flecks of what looks like courtroom seal wax still clinging to the thread. Your name is printed on a folded card beneath it, typed with surgical neatness. You've been watching. Now it's your turn to open something. You turn the key over in your palm, heavy, ornate, worn down around the edges, like it's opened more than a few doors. There's a number etched faintly into the bow, B314. You scan your memory for court building codes, floor levels, storage rooms, and then it clicks. Basement, archive storage, room 314. That room hasn't been used in over a decade. Not since a mold incident forced them to close it off. Everything inside supposedly relocated. But you remember something else. That room was always kept locked with a brass key, not digital. They never replaced it because no one ever went in. And now the key has found you. You should ignore it. You should call someone. But you won't. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Because curiosity isn't your weakness, it's your compass, and it's pointing straight toward the dark. You go. 2 hours later, you're standing in front of the courthouse after hours, using a maintenance badge you borrowed years ago to bypass the side entrance, down into the basement. The air is thick, damp with forgotten files and mildew. You find room 314, padlocked. You insert the key. It slides in like it was just oiled yesterday. Click. The door creaks open. Inside, rows of boxes, stacked high like coffins. You step forward and see the first label, Ellison. V. Trial. Note archive. Inadmissible. There are dozens of them. You pop open the top lid. Inside, a jury sketch of Vera Ellison, a red pen with knowing, a tape recorder labeled Day 2, deliberation, a Polaroid. You lift the photo. It shows Vera in a jury box, but she's alone. Every other seat is empty. Yet, on the back, in blue ink, one sentence. It only takes one vote to ruin a man. Everyone lies, especially the ones who lock the truth away, then hand you the key. The apartment that was never yours. You don't sleep. You just sit there, in your apartment, flipping the Polaroid over and over, memorizing the slanted ink and wondering how many times she's whispered justice into a courtroom that never knew she was there. When the sun breaks, pale and indifferent, you get a new message. No sender, just a street address and a room number, 4228 Elmont Street, Apt 3B. Your gut churns. You don't recognize the location, but something inside you already knows it isn't random. You go anyway. The building is old, red brick, narrow hallways. You count the stairs up to the 3rd floor. Every step groans like it remembers the weight of someone who shouldn't have been there. A rusted plaque on the door says 3B. You knock once, no answer. Twice, still nothing. You try the knob. It opens. The smell hits you first. Dust, lavender, and something beneath that. Photographic chemicals. The space is untouched, pristine, almost staged. The kitchen table holds a single place setting, a fork bent at the middle like it's been twisted by hand. You step further in. Photographs cover the far wall, hundreds of them, not of people, of juries, courtroom shots, blurred faces, markings in red pen, circles, X's, arrows pointing to one seat every time seat number 9. Always 9. Always her. You find a framed photograph at the center. Vera, seated in what looks like a courtroom you've never seen. Behind her, a man you know, Thomas Reiner. But it's not the photo from his trial. It's from 5 years before the murder ever happened. They're standing side by side, smiling. You feel a shift inside your chest. You check the back of the frame. A tag reads, Mock Jury, Internal Exercise, Do Not Distribute. And below that, Plaintiff Margaret Ellison, Subject, Jury Manipulation Model Phase 2. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Because it's easier to believe in coincidence than to believe you've stumbled into a program, something orchestrated, old, and engineered to look like fate. Your phone buzzes again. Another message. Leaseholder. Your name. You spin. There's a file on the coffee table. Waiting. You open it. Inside, a rental contract. Signed under your name. Backdated 3 months. Initialed in your handwriting. You blink. Stagger. This apartment. It's yours. It's been yours. You sit down before your knees betray you. The Polaroid from room 314 is pinned to the back of the lease folder now. You didn't bring it here. It followed you. Everyone lies, especially the ones who already live inside your name. The clock that only ticks at night. You wake to the sound of ticking. You didn't fall asleep. You're sure of that. But you wake just the same, heart thudding, eyes wide, body cold with the feeling of having been watched. The apartment is still, except for that sound. Tick, tick, tick. Not a wall clock. You don't own one. Never have. The ticking is soft, subtle, but it's not random. It's rhythmic, like a heartbeat made mechanical. You follow it down the hall, past the framed photographs that were never yours, toward the linen closet that's never held linens. You open it. Nothing. Just towels. Then the ticking stops. You exhale, and the air feels heavier than when it entered your lungs. You turn to leave. The ticking starts again. This time, right behind you. You spin, and there it is. A pocket watch, dangling from the coat hook you never installed. It's not yours. Brass casing. Glass front cracked down the center like a fault line. The hands are spinning backward. Fast, too fast, like it's rewinding time, but doesn't know how far to go. You unhook it and turn it over. Engraved on the back. Trial number 1. Verdict reversed. You drop it. It doesn't break. It laughs. Not loudly. Not audibly. But something about the whirring gears. The mocking tick. The way the second hand spins like it's trying to escape its own judgment. Something about it feels like laughter. You pick it back up and slip it into your coat pocket. You don't know why. Maybe because it feels like a confession or a countdown. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You sit at the kitchen table and lay out the facts. Vera Ellison is supposed to be dead. She's shown up in 12 jury trials, seat 9, every time. She knows who you are, and someone wants you to know that too. You pull out the lease again. On the final page is something new. A court docket. Upcoming trial. State versus Kelman. Murder. Jury selection starts next week. And beside it, handwritten in red, seat 9 is taken, but seat 10 is still open. You stare at it for a long time. Then you feel the ticking again inside your pocket this time. The watch is warm, like it's alive. You pull it out and flip it open again. The hands have stopped, right at 9:10. 9, 10, you. Everyone lies, especially the ones who sit next to ghosts and don't realize the ghost might be them. The voice that knew your secrets. Your phone rings again. Same number. No ID. You let it ring 3 times before answering. This time, the voice doesn't whisper. It smiles. You're not watching anymore. It says, you're in. You say nothing, because What do you say to a voice that already knows what's in your drawers, your inbox, your veins? Trial starts Monday. It continues. They'll pick 12. A pause, but only one matters. You force your voice steady. Why me? A soft laugh, like wind through broken blinds, because you remember the case no one else does, because you testified, because you lied. The call ends. Your hand trembles as you lower the phone. You lied. Back then, 15 years ago, you told the court Margaret Ellison never disclosed prior threats from her husband. But you knew she had. You'd read the sealed affidavit. You were told to ignore it, instructed by the prosecutor. You were young. You were scared. You wanted to keep your job. You knew, but pretended you didn't. And now the truth is crawling back from the grave you helped dig. You turn toward your laptop. A new email has arrived. No subject, no sender. Just one image attached. A courtroom, but it's empty, except for seat 9 and someone sitting beside it. Your seat. You zoom in. It's you. A perfect rendering of your face, hunched forward, brows tight, fingers curled around a red pen. You don't own a red pen. You never use red. And yet, one now sits on your desk. You pick it up, uncapped, fresh, and on your notepad. A sentence has already been written in your handwriting. Control isn't given. It's taken, one vote at a time. You flip the pen over, tiny letters, etched into the plastic. Property of Exhibit Room 314. You feel it all closing in. The apartment that's not yours. The trials, the timelines, the ticking watch. Seat 9, seat 10, and a whisper that never left your mind. Everyone lies, especially the ones who teach you how. The whisper beneath the courtroom floor. You return to the courthouse, this time with purpose. No more hesitation. No more pretending the lines aren't connected. The brass key, the ticking watch, the photographs, the faked lease. They're not clues anymore. They're instructions. It's Saturday. No trials, no security. The halls are quieter than they should be. The kind of silence that doesn't just fill space, it listens. You descend to the sub-basement, a floor below even the archives, a place most people don't know exists unless they've read the blueprints, and you have room B001, former holding cells, decommissioned, unused, or so you were told. The key works here, too. You step inside and pause. The air feels wrong, too still, too thick, as if even sound refuses to enter. Your footsteps echo. You flash your phone light across the space. Cell doors line the wall, each one welded shut, except for the last, slightly open. Inside a desk, a chair, and on the desk, a recorder, identical to the one labeled Day 2. Deliberation. You press play. A voice speaks. Not Vera's, a man's. Older, cold. Trial. 12. Subject compliant. Test parameters exceeded. Variable introduced. Seat 9 initiated unsanctioned contact. Observation tainted. You freeze. Then another voice answers. Female. Controlled. I warned you. If they remember, it doesn't matter what the verdict is. The lie cracks. You compromised the simulation. I completed it. Click. Silence. You rewind. Play again. Listen to every word, every breath. This wasn't a trial. It was an experiment. 12 juries, 12 verdicts, all manipulated, observed, tested, and you were part of it before you even knew. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You shine your light further into the cell. The back wall is covered in tally marks, hundreds, maybe more, and beside them, a photo. You, sitting on a courtroom bench from a trial you never attended, wearing a juror's badge, seat 10. You back away, breathing fast, but your watch is ticking again. You pull it out. It's counting forward now. 10 seconds. 9, 8. You drop it. It hits the floor and shatters. But instead of gears and springs, a slip of paper tumbles out. One sentence. Control isn't about truth. It's about who speaks it first. Everyone lies, especially the ones who speak in your voice before you ever open your mouth. The case file. You never filed. You lock yourself in your apartment, not because you think it'll keep anyone out, but because it's the only move that still feels like yours. On your table, the broken watch, the recorder, the photos. You line them up like evidence, like ritual, and then the envelope appears. You don't hear it slide under the door. You just see it, waiting, neatly centered on your doormat. No name, no postage. Inside a single sheet of legal paper, typed, official, case, no, 2023-07-415. People versus you. You scan the document. Charges, evidence tampering, obstruction, perjury. You never committed these crimes, except maybe you did. You knew, but pretended you didn't. 15 years ago, when you testified in the Ellison case, you left something out. A call, a conversation, a folder marked inadmissible. They say omission isn't the same as lying, but in a courtroom it's everything. You turn the page over. On the back, a photo of the jury, not from the old case, from next week's. State versus Kelman. You stare. Seat 9 is already filled. By her, Vera, calm, poised, looking straight into the camera like she knew the photo would find you. Seat 10 is empty. Beneath it, handwritten in red. You know how this ends. The phone rings. No number. You answer. Her voice is soft, measured. You're almost there, she says. Truth is a mirror. Most people are too scared to look. What do you want from me? Nothing, she says. Pause. Everything. You clench the receiver. You manipulated the jury. You broke the system. No, she says. I revealed it. Silence stretches. Then she asks, do you believe the verdict matters if the story was rigged from the start? You don't answer, because she's not really asking you. She's reminding you of what you already knew, of what you buried, of what you're finally unearthing. You hang up. Outside, the streetlights flicker. One by one, you look at your window. Across the street, a figure stands in the reflection, unmoving, watching. You blink. Gone. Everyone lies, especially the ones who let you think you're the one choosing. The mirror you never owned. There's a mirror in your hallway now. You're sure it wasn't there yesterday. Slim, tall, beveled edges, just like the ones outside courtroom restrooms. The kind that make you look like a stranger. You approach slowly. Your reflection greets you with polite confusion. Same clothes, same face, but something's off. The eyes, they aren't tired, they're expectant. You reach toward the glass and realize your reflection doesn't move. You freeze. It blinks before you do, then tilts its head. You knew, but pretended you didn't, because deep down, you felt it since the watch cracked open, since the tape recorder clicked shut. Someone has been mirroring your life, not copying, framing. On the edge of the mirror is a brass tag, nearly invisible unless you're standing this close. You read it aloud. Property of exhibit room 3:14. Evidence photo 10. Your reflection smiles. That's when you notice it. In the corner of the mirror's surface, barely visible in the dim apartment light, is a second reflection. Not yours, hers, over your shoulder. Behind you, you spin. Nothing. You turn back to the glass. Now your reflection has changed. Your shirt is stained with blood. On the mirror version of your desk sits a folder. You lean closer, squinting at the label, People versus R. Kelman, seat 10th, juror notes. Inside the folder, scribbled observations. One line underlined 3 times. He knew the victim. He just didn't admit it. You back away, heart racing, because you remember now, not just the trial that's coming, the one from years ago, before Vera, before Margaret. There was another case, a boy found dead in a park. Gelman was acquitted, and you, just out of law school, signed off on sealing the interview, where he admitted knowing the victim. They said it was irrelevant. You said nothing. You knew, but pretended you didn't. The mirror pulses once just a flicker, like it's glitching, then returns to normal. Your face, still, breathing hard, and beneath the brass tag now, etched as if by a fingernail, truth doesn't crack, it fractures. You look again. Your reflection now shows you holding something in your left hand, the red pen. But when you glance down, your hand is empty. Everyone lies, especially the ones who live on the other side of the glass and still write your story better than you do. The juror who was never summoned. Sunday morning, one day before the trial begins, you sit at your desk, the mirror covered now by an old bedsheet, but its weight still presses through the fabric like breath against your back. You scroll through court records, digitized, buried, encrypted. You're not looking for Vera anymore. You're looking for yourself, because something's been gnawing at your thoughts since you saw the lease agreement, since the jury photo, since the moment you opened that envelope. You never received a jury summons, not for Kelman, not ever. You search every archive, no summons, no selection record, no juror number, nothing. Then you check the private logs, the kind only internal court staff access, and there it is, your name, inserted manually, by an admin that doesn't exist. Juror seat, 10 approved, priority override, filed under a department code that makes your spine go cold. PSY DPD uses controlled cognitive trials, observer integration unit. You cross-reference the code. It doesn't belong to the court. It belongs to a defense firm. You recognize the name. They defended the man who didn't go to prison 15 years ago. Margaret Ellison's killer. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Your involvement wasn't an accident. It was engineered. You were chosen not to watch, but to be watched, tested, measured, bent until the lines between truth and guilt snapped into something moldable. Your phone buzzes, text message, no number. You've seen behind the curtain. Now show them what you've learned. You pace the room, red pen now in your pocket, like it grew there. Your thoughts spiral. How many trials, how many verdicts reversed, manipulated, delayed, and then it hits you. This isn't about Vera. She's not the puppet. She's the one who cut the strings. But you're still tangled. You open your email, a new message. No text, just a file. Audio, titled, Jury Deliberation, Trial, number 13. You press play. Voices argue, calm at first, then frantic. And in the middle, one voice cuts through. Yours, saying something you don't remember saying. I saw the footage. He confessed. Only that never happened. You never saw footage. You never even spoke in deliberations. Not in that trial. Which means it was fabricated. You were fabricated. Everyone lies, especially the ones who've already turned you into evidence before you even entered the courtroom. The verdict that arrived before the trial, midnight again. Your apartment has stopped pretending it's yours. The lights flicker in a rhythm that matches your breath. The mirror hums beneath the bedsheet like a heart trying not to beat. You lay everything out, every photo, document, audio file, and fragment. Together, they form a mosaic of contradictions, trials that never happened, witnesses who were never born, verdicts written before juries convened, and in the center of it all, you light a cigarette. You don't smoke, but tonight feels like it requires ritual, the kind that scorches the lungs to clear the mind. You scroll through your inbox again, a new message, from your own email address, subject, tomorrow is already over, attached a single PDF, a verdict sheet, state versus, Kelman, 12 juror names, 11 boxes marked not guilty, seat 10, your name, your box guilty. You laugh, short, hollow. A man alone in a play where the ending's been tattooed across the script before the curtain even rises. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You ask yourself, did Kelman do it? You don't know. You never did. But someone wants you to say yes, wants you to carry the guilt of a conviction the system wasn't supposed to deliver. You reread the verdict, then flip the page. On the back, a sketch. The courtroom, empty except for two figures, you and Vera. But you're not seated in the box. You're on trial. She's the foreperson, and she's pointing at you. You snap, grab the red pen and begin scribbling. Circles, X's, arrows, connecting lines that don't go where they should. And then, accidentally, you tear through the verdict sheet. Underneath, your table's surface, scratched deep, like someone's carved it with care over time. One word, over and over, retrial. The clock ticks, not the watch, the wall clock, the one that hasn't worked in years. It ticks now. One beat, then two, and then silence. You look up. Vera's face is on your TV screen. No video, just a photo, black and white, courtroom lighting, captioned, witness tampering, verdict overturned. You press the power button. Nothing changes. The screen stays, like the photo's part of the television now. Everyone lies, especially the ones who rewrite your ending and dare you to argue it ever belonged to you. The door that wasn't supposed to open. You don't sleep. Sleep belongs to people who trust their memories. You pace 4 steps to the mirror, 5 to the kitchen, 3 back to the door. You stop on the 3rd round because the door you locked it is open, just slightly, as if someone had been careful not to break in, but to not disturb you. You approach slowly, heart slowing instead of racing. You're beyond fear now. You're in the hollow space after fear. You pull the door fully open. The hallway is empty, except a box, small, black, no markings. You bring it inside like it was always meant for you. You open it. Inside a gavel, old, wood chipped, the handle splintered, like someone gripped it too hard during a verdict no one wanted to deliver. Etched faintly near the head that 10, Control Group Alpha. Underneath it, a note, typed, but the ink is smudged, as if someone wept while printing it. A jury is 12 mirrors. When one cracks, the reflection fractures. You didn't fail the system. You passed the test. Now you get to decide what the truth is. Your hands shake, not because you're scared, Because you understand now, they don't want a verdict. They want a volunteer. You to sit in seat 10, to press the gavel, to declare something you can't possibly know to be true, and to do it anyway. You look down. The gavel is gone. You were holding it. You're not anymore. You check the mirror. It's uncovered. The bedsheet gone. And inside the mirror, the gavel is in your reflection's hand. You stare. It raises the gavel, taps the bench once, then smiles. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Because some truths aren't buried, they're implanted. And you've been carrying this one like a time bomb behind your ribs. You step back. Your foot hits something. A box, not the one with the gavel. Another. Inside 12 badges. Juror numbers 1 through 12. All yours. Each with a different trial date. Each signed in your handwriting. Even the ones that haven't happened yet. Everyone lies. Especially the ones who ask the questions before you know your answer. The witness who knew your name. Monday. Trial day. You dress like it's your first. Not your 12th. Not your last. Seat 10 is waiting. You ride the elevator up in silence. The watch ticking in your pocket. Again a faint, but insistent. Like it's counting down something only it understands. The courthouse looks the same, but nothing feels the same. The security guard waves you through. His eyes linger just a second too long, like he recognizes you, like they all do. You step into the courtroom, smell the varnished benches, the faint coffee breath of justice drawn out too long. Then you see her, Vera, seat 9, already seated, composed. No surprise in her eyes when she spots you, only something worse, recognition. She tilts her head just enough for you to feel the weight of the years you thought were buried. You sit, seat 10. The bailiff calls the court to order. The judge appears. Gavel slams once. The prosecution begins. You try to listen, try to follow, but the facts are thin, too clean, sterile. The victim's name is familiar, too familiar. You flip through the evidence packet, and there it is, a photo of you, standing on the sidewalk, 15 years ago, outside Margaret Ellison's house, the night she died. This isn't the Gelman case. It's yours. You whisper to Vera without turning your head. What is this? She doesn't answer, because she doesn't need to. You already know. Everyone lies, especially the ones who never raise their hand to swear in, but still testify with every glance. The prosecution rests. The defense stands, and your name is spoken aloud. Witness, your name. Please rise. You're not the juror. Not this time. You're the missing piece, the one they've been guiding here, step by step, trial by trial, until you became both observer and observed. You rise, take the stand. They ask you where you were that night, 15 years ago. You answer with the truth, or something close to it, but you can feel it. The reflection of you, sitting in seat 10, is watching, judging, holding the gavel. You knew, but pretended you didn't, that this was never about one verdict. It was about learning to hand one down. And now you see Vera smile, not at you, but at the court reporter, the one transcribing every word. Because what's happening now, it's already been recorded. It's already been used. And this trial, it's just the final loop. Everyone lies, especially the ones who swear they're here for justice, but are really here to finish your confession for you. The confession. You never gave your mouth is moving. You hear your voice, but you're not choosing the words. They feel scripted, old, rehearsed. I was there, you say, but I didn't see who entered the house. False. You saw. You remember now. The shape behind the curtain. The shadow in the hallway. The man with the gloves. And the woman who watched from the garden. Silent. Still. Vera? She was there that night. You lower your gaze. On the courtroom desk in front of you is a yellow legal pad. Someone's notes, not yours, but written in your handwriting. If the lie becomes part of the record, it becomes truth. Control depends on agreement, not accuracy. Seat 10 will believe what seat 9 allows. The red pen sits beside the pad, capped, innocent. The judge watches you like he's waiting for a punchline he's already memorized. You glance to the jury box. It's full. 12 versions of you. Different clothes, different years, some with beards, some clean-shaven. All you. One whispers to the next. You hear the word perjury. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Your pulse races, not from panic, from clarity. It hits you like a verdict from God. You've never left the trial, not in 15 years. You've only changed roles. Juror, witness, defendant, bailiff. The one constant Vera, always watching, always beside the truth, but never in it. You try to speak, to say her name, but your throat closes. Instead, the judge nods to the bailiff. A box is brought forward. It's black, velvet lined. Inside the broken watch, your watch. Only, it's whole again. The glass sealed, hands ticking calmly. The judge addresses the jury. Members of the court, he says, do you find the subject reliable? A pause. 12 yous nod. Simultaneously, you try to rise, to protest, to object. But Vera is already standing. I move for integration, she says softly. The gavel slams. Approved. Integration. The word haunts you. And then the screen in the courtroom flashes on. Not video. Reflection. You see yourself. The real you. Seated in seat 10. Still. Expressionless. Watching this entire trial unfold. Not live. From recording. This isn't happening now. This already happened. And you're the only one who didn't know. Everyone lies, especially the ones who live in recordings, looping until the right verdict finally breaks the cycle. The loop that brought you here. You are standing but also seated, speaking but also silent, watching but also being watched. You blink, and the courtroom is gone. No judge, no Vera, no jury, just a room. Gray walls, no door, no clock, only the mirror, clean, tall, endless, and in it, you, not reflected, recorded, the version of you that always knew, the one who smiled when the watch cracked, who circled the phrase, seat 10 will believe what seat 9 allows. You pound on the glass. Your reflection doesn't mimic it. It waits, and then it speaks. No mouth moves, but you hear it, clear as verdict. You volunteered. You just forgot. You stagger back. The room shifts. Now it's your apartment, but wrong, tilted, too perfect. The kind of reconstruction a lawyer might use in trial animations. You see your desk, the box, the pen. You reach for it, but your hand passes through. Not real, like everything else. The mirror returns. A courtroom appears behind your reflection now, empty except for one figure. Seat 9, Vera, wearing your face. Her eyes meet yours, and now she speaks, not the mirror, her. We needed someone who believed they could resist the verdict. We needed someone who thought they were outside the story. You proved us wrong. You scream. No sound comes out. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Because Denial is the last mask before compliance. You sink to the floor. The ticking returns, not the watch. Your heart, keeping tempo with the truth too loud to ignore now. And then a screen drops from above. It glows with one question. If truth is manufactured, is guilt still real? Two options blink beneath. Yes, no keyboard, just the red pen lying beside you. This is it. This is the real trial. And there's only ever been one juror. You. You take the pen. You hesitate. Because you understand now. The question isn't about Kelman. It's about you. The guilt you carry. The stories you helped bury. The lives you watched unravel because silence was easier than truth. You circle your answer. The lights cut out. The pen vanishes. And a new screen appears. Verdict received. Thank you for your service. Everyone lies. Especially the ones who write the final question knowing you've already answered it in your sleep. The silence that delivered the sentence. You open your eyes. You're seated. Not in your apartment. Not in the courtroom. Somewhere colder. Fluorescent lights hum above. Walls the color of nothing. No doors. No clocks. No exits. Just one long table. 12 seats. All filled. By you. Different ages. Different postures. One fidgets. One chews a pen cap. One at the far end stares at you like he already knows how this ends. Vera stands at the head, clad not in black, but in gray. No longer a foreperson, no longer a mystery. She's something else now, something older. She places a manila folder on the table in front of you, your name printed across it. You open it. Inside transcripts from every trial you witnessed, from everyone you didn't know you were part of. Notes scribbled in margins, corrections in red pen, but they're not edits, they're directives. Words like shift perception, redirect empathy, narrative override approved. You've been guiding the outcomes all along, thinking you were observing, you were curating, training. You flip to the last page, a photograph. It's you again, but older, wearing a judge's robe. The caption, control phase begins upon acceptance. You drop the folder. No. You say, I didn't agree to this. Vera raises one eyebrow. You did. She holds up the red pen. There's no ink left. That means the verdict was final. You back away from the table, but the other versions of you, they don't move. They just stare, like mirrors with too much memory. You close your eyes and speak the words you feared all along. I knew. It's a whisper, but the room goes silent, as if it was waiting for that sentence all along. Vera nods. That's the only confession that matters. Then she steps away from the table, replaced instantly by a mirror, tall, frameless. It shows a courtroom full of people waiting, an empty judge's bench, one seat in the jury box still vacant, seat 10. The pen appears in your hand once more. Even though it was out of ink, you look down. The red is still wet, but it isn't ink. You knew, but pretended you didn't, because truth doesn't scream. It waits until silence becomes unbearable, until guilt becomes choice. Everyone lies, especially the ones who finally stop. Rain taps softly against an unseen window, somewhere far beyond this room, this story, this version of you. You sit in stillness now, not on a bench, not in a courtroom, but in the quiet place truth leaves behind when it's finished making its case. Outside the mirror, the world moves on. People pass verdicts over morning coffee. Juries form at kitchen tables. Trials begin and end in whispers. headlines and broken glances, and you're the silence in between, the one who watched, who judged, who lied, and who finally remembered. Maybe you weren't meant to be a hero. Maybe you were the case study, a reflection bent long enough to mistake the warping for wisdom. But here's what remains. You were never alone. Not really. There's always someone watching. And sometimes, if you look closely enough, the reflection blinks first. Now, take a breath. Let the weight settle. Let the questions echo. Was Vera ever real? Did you ever truly take the stand? Did the gavel fall? Or did you just dream the sound? Some stories end with answers. Yours ends with awareness. A jury of one, staring down the truth and wondering, just for a moment, whether it stared back. End of script. Sleep well and watch your back.